The risk of loss in trading futures and options can be substantial. Therefore, only genuine risk funds should be used in such trading. Futures and options may not be a suitable investment for all individuals, and individuals should carefully consider their financial condition in deciding whether to trade. Option traders should be aware that the exercise of a long option will result in a futures position. Information herein has been obtained and prepared from sources believed to be reliable. Comments contained in these materials are not intended to be solicitation to buy or sell any of the commodities mentioned. Past performance is not indicative of any future performance. Opinions expressed here are the opinions of the author only, and not the opinion of any firm the author may be affiliated or associated with.
Welcome back to Commodity Classics. I'm Michael Yorba, your host. Up next is Tim Bost. He is the editor and publisher of Financial Cycles Weekly. Tim, let's bring him in right now. We're going to try and get through a bunch of stuff in a little bit of time. How was Denver, buddy?
Oh, it was wonderful, Michael. Thank you. We had quite a gathering there. About 1,300 astrologers from around the world, from about 48 different countries, gathered for a week-long conference. And not all of them were financial astrologers, but there was a good representation in that track of the conference. We had about a dozen different top lecturers speaking in that field. And the thing that tickled me most, Michael, was the number of people that came up to me during the event and said that they had seen me on the Commodity Classics program.
Oh.
We've got quite a following in the community there.
Thanks so much, and hi to everybody. Thank you so much for saying that. You really hit me right here.
Well, the other thing that was so nice was a number of the folks from the Denver area and Boulder came up and spoke with me and spoke very, very highly of the programming on Commodity Classics, and it was nice to meet some of the viewers, and I want to thank all of them for touching base with me. It was an excellent experience.
Thank you. My heartfelt thanks, too. All right, let's get into this stuff because, as you know, this is like my passion. It's fascinating to me. Do you want to start with that first chart that you'd sent us?
Yeah, let's bring up that first circular chart, if you will.
Okay.
What we have to look at this time is an event coming up next week on the 28th of May, and as you know, Michael, that's always an important date each year. But we should fill the viewers in as to why, I suppose.
Okay, it's my birthday.
That's your birthday, right? So, but aside from being your birthday,
okay.
it's an important date this year for the markets as well. And we have a particular angular relationship between Venus and Uranus occurring that date. And what I have here is a Gann wheel, a wheel of 24, the universal clock, we like to call it. It's one of the featured components on the Fibonacci Galactic Trader software, which automates this Gann wheel feature, which makes it very, very easy to use. And what we're noting is that we have toward the inner ring there, the planet Venus lining up on the same spoke of the wheel as Uranus a little bit farther out. And whenever we find two planets lining up like this, there's a good chance that something will happen in the markets, depending on the nature of the planets and the exact relationship between the two of them. In this case, there's an angular relationship of 72 degrees in the heavens between Venus and Uranus. That's a fifth harmonic dynamic. If we divide the 360 degrees of the circle by 5, we get 72 degrees, and so this is a particularly strong relationship, and I'm expecting some good market action on that basis. Whenever we have this particular combination of these two planets, the market tends to rally shortly after that. This has about a 75 to 80% accuracy rate, so it's something that we like to pay attention to. In this case, we have what we would call a waxing dynamic. That is to say, Venus is ahead of Uranus, moving toward it, rather than trailing it in its position in the sky. And that tends to be a little bit stronger than the opposite 72-degree angle. And so that gives us a little extra assurance that we could see a market pop immediately following this. Now, I say immediately, it may start on the 27th or 28th of May, but the strongest move, I think, will actually come a few days after that and run into early June. If we have that second chart, we can see how we translate all this into some price action. This is the S&P through yesterday's close, and basically I think we ended up pretty much flat for the day today. We're up, 2 points or 3 points, something like that. And what we've seen over the last couple sessions, of course, is a bit of a sell-off, and what we're heading for is a move toward the support on the Venus line that we've been trailing here for the last few weeks. On this chart, by the way, the green lines that are diagonal at about a 45-degree angle on the chart are representations of Venus in the 7th harmonic. Each one of the green lines is a Venus line. I've just labeled one of them. And the horizontal lines that are kind of a brownish orange are the planet Uranus, and also in this 5th harmonic. What we're interested in is the crossing point of these two lines, because that flags particular angular relationships between these two planets. And the one coming up here, it actually occurs the night between May 27th, 28th, so I've mentioned both dates as a potential time for a price target here. But more likely, we'll be looking for the target on May 28th. And the corresponding price level here is at 1360 on the S&P. Now, in an ideal situation, we would see the trading that day find a bottom, a low for the day, right at 1360, and then move up from there. That would be the strongest indicator. But if we get a close that day or even a high that day at that level or near anywhere near it, then we would take that as confirmation of this particular planetary dynamic being active in the markets, and then work accordingly from there.
Okay, I have a question for you. So let's say that we hit this target where we've got Venus and Uranus crossing, which coincides with the planets. I noticed that you have a way to move those planets into a forecasting position. In other words, you're not just looking at them as they are, but you move those planets around. Ladies and gentlemen, I work with that wheel too. That was pretty good, pretty tricky. I had to pull out my old ephemeris and calculate it.
Oh, the handy-dandy ephemeris, yes.
Yeah, otherwise, I was like, where did he get that one? Anyway, long story short, if it bounces off of that, do you have a time frame in the future for the length of trend on the rally?
Right. I'm looking for a rally that, if that gets initiated, especially with a correct low at that point, for a move up into early June, possibly to June 9th or 10th. And then after that, some more corrective action into about the 4th of July. Moving a little bit farther ahead in the year, after early July, I would expect another fairly strong summer rally to occur in equities from early July into either late July, early August, and then after that, some topping action, some choppiness through August, and then I'm looking for a very, very sharp downturn later in the year. It may start as early as Labor Day, but certainly by October we'll, I think, see a fairly major correction in the markets. But I don't think we've played out all of the upside action yet.
Okay, all right. I've got a couple of questions real quick in the shout box for you.
Right.
Let's see here. There's Tim, do astrologers, and this is coming from somebody who hasn't put a name on there, but do astrologers finally agree that when we may have a market crash, and which to me is a good question, is there a consensus of a time when it's going to be the most volatile to the downside coming up?
Well, I think the general sentiment among astrologers is fairly bearish at this point. In terms of the market turning down, it certainly seems to be fairly bearish as far as the economy goes. But the catchword here is consensus. finding consensus among astrologers is about like finding consensus among technical analysts. Two people can look at the same chart and see entirely different things. And there's certainly a lot of discussion and some disagreement among astrologers as to the exact timing and what events in the heavens will be predominant in terms of impacting the markets and in what directions. But overall, I think the mood tends to be more bearish than bullish, but consensus, we're a long way from that.
Okay. All right, real quick, two more questions, and then I want to show you a little chart that I came up with.
Oh, good.
Let's see here. What can you tell us about June 7th Bradley model? Looks like is it a major turning point?
Well, again, I'm looking for an inflection point in the markets in early June. My date looks at about June 9th, and as I recall, the 7th is a Saturday, if I'm remembering, so we wouldn't necessarily see market action coinciding with that. And what happens with the Bradley model is this. The Bradley model was devised by Donald Bradley back in the 1940s, and it uses particular types of angular relationships of the planets to forecast the market. He did his work with the Dow, and it's an interesting model because it tends to be fairly reliable in terms of pinpointing approximate turning points in the equities markets, but it often inverts. So it's hard to tell with Bradley model whether a top is actually going to be a top or whether it'll end up being a bottom. But with my models right now, I am looking for a significant turn in early June, probably around the 9th.
Okay. Last but certainly not least, and then I want to show you this chart before we go to a break. Is there anything around 8808? I think that's the day the Olympics in China open.
Oh, August 8th, 08. Well, that's 1 week after a solar eclipse and 1 week before a lunar eclipse, and that's a very, very potent time frame in general. We'll have a lot to talk about as we get nearer those dates, because there's a tremendous amount of energy and a lot of pressure on the markets around that time frame. And interestingly enough, my current model is showing some topping pattern there, but that could bring about events in geopolitics that could have a big impact on the markets. So that topping pattern may end up being a double top and a little bit of fairly gut-wrenching volatility short term when we get into August.
Whoa, okay. All right, let's snap real quick into this chart that I put up here. Tim, on the right side, this is crude oil. It's very difficult to make out, but it's got $133 a barrel on that price. But here's my question. I've got the Jupiter line crossing the Mars line coming in just about June 3rd, and I've got some aspects hitting that at about 142. That's enough of the chart. About $142 a barrel. So if we hold these levels, can we go back to Tim, please? If we hold these levels, do you feel that that has some merit to it, that we could see an upward bias here of the crude oil market at 100?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm looking for a much more upside action in crude based on fundamentals and some astrological factors as well. And, certainly that Jupiter dynamic you're looking at could be one of the influences on it. A price of 142, I think, is not unrealistic at all for crude, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it substantially higher than that before the end the year is out.
Thank you very much, Tim. And I want to tell everybody who is watching, who's in your camp, I wish I would have known about this stuff 28 years ago. It's really, really improved my trading. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you, Michael. Have a great week.
You too. We'll talk to you next week. All right, that was Tim Bost, editor and publisher of Financial Cycles Weekly. And I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this stuff has improved my trading. I've been doing this for 28 years, and I've seen tremendous leaps in my accuracy by using this stuff. So go ahead and give Tim a call. He'll walk you through the steps. Don't expect instant results overnight. It takes a little study. But I don't say this very often, but I'm pretty impressed with what I've learned from this guy. We'll be right back with John Netto. I'm Michael Yorba, your host, here on Commodity Classics. Sit tight. More stuff to come.